Meghan Markle has just become the Temu Victoria Beckham. And guess what? She's furious, raging, totally overwhelmed with jealousy by the success of Victoria's Netflix reality series, which has gone to the top of the charts.
The piece basically argues that Meghan Markle is bitter and jealous of Victoria Beckham's authentic, chart-topping Netflix success. The host paints Meghan as someone who married into success rather than owning it, accuses her of using curated propaganda, her Netflix show, Instagram, celebrity photo ops, to mask failures, claims she's alienated friends and staff through bullying, and suggests Harry is miserable and being manipulated. The Beckhams, by contrast, are held up as gritty, earned success, vulnerable, authentic, resilient, while Meghan is framed as fragile, performative, and career-deficient without royal ties.
And had huge amounts of promotional money pumped in by Netflix. Everything they didn't do with Love Meghan, because they knew they were not only dealing with a massive flop, but they were dealing with an inauthentic protagonist who wasn't opening up and revealing the truth about her life. Now, of course, the feud between Meghan Markle and Victoria Beckham dates back some years. It dates back to Meghan's time within the royal family, when Victoria had very graciously offered to help Meghan with her fashion and her clothes and sort of finding the right people who could help her out in London. And let's be honest, she needed the help. You know, Meghan needed the help. She's not up there when it comes to fashion and beauty. But then when that was leaked to the tabloids, Meghan immediately blamed Victoria. She even forced Prince Harry to cut David Beckham off, even though he had travelled to Australia with two of his sons for the Invictus Games. So a massive feud has ensued for some time. The Beckhams have, of course, very much aligned themselves with the British royal family, both William and Catherine, and now King Charles and Camilla. Meanwhile, Meghan's simmering obsession has just got weirder. And we've seen it all week in New York City and in Washington, D.C. Whereas, according to Taz pointed out, comparing and contrasting a whole load of these outfits and moments on social media, it's like a scary Temu Victoria Beckham. You just know she's watched every episode of Victoria's Netflix shows. All the latest photos in New York are her with her hand in her pocket, big sunglasses, trying not to smile. Beckham has a stalker now. And Revolude's source added, sadly, I need to add to this trend. Victoria, photographed at her Netflix documentary release party on the 10th of October, Mrs. Sussex photographed today. I mean, come on, that's unmistakable. It is completely unmistakable. And P. Diner, as Victoria Beckham secures the cover of Hello magazine solo this week, as she is right up there on the international charts of Netflix, something Meghan never achieved on her own with Love Meghan. There is a simmering rage coming from Montecito at the fact that Victoria can make it in her own right, yet she can't.
You know what is hitting Meghan in the face right now is the fact that Victoria has, like you said, she's made it on her own. She was successful in the girl band, and now she has worked really hard to get success in the fashion world. And Meghan will always be known as someone who married into the royal family. That is where her success stops and ends. She has no independent success with anything that she has done outside of her connection to the royal family. And that infuriates Meghan. And I have to give it off to Victoria because she has earned my respect, something Meghan will never get, because Meghan wants to always be the victim. She doesn't want to show herself as someone who has learned anything. But Victoria, she talks about her failures. She talks about the struggles she has had. We're in her home. We are behind the scenes of her business. We don't see all the good, pretty things. We see the ugly and hard to accept things as well. That is where you get respect from people, when you show the things that don't really necessarily put you in a good light. You earn respect that way because you're vulnerable. People can relate to you. Meghan doesn't want people to see what we all know is happening. She's failed. She doesn't want to talk about her failures. She doesn't want to talk about how she went wrong here. She wants to blame and accuse people to make herself appear like the victim to get sympathy. And you can't get sympathy from being a victim and being somebody who has problems because they beat up on you, whatever. We don't care. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with when things don't happen in the way you had envisioned them to happen? Meghan can't bring herself to do it, but Victoria can. And she herself said in her documentary how she had to earn the respect. She had to make the mistakes and be told that is a mistake, not being told what you want to hear as a powerful person. She went there with people, and that's why she has people's respect. And Meghan will never get respect because, like I said, her success ends with who she married, and that is it. It goes no further than you married a prince. Anything outside of that marriage is a failure, Meghan, and she can't accept it. That's the problem with Meghan.
Now let's unpack that. What's being claimed, how it's said, why it lands for some people, and where the argument falls apart. Contrast storytelling. The whole piece runs on contrast. Victoria equals zoned, vulnerable, authentic. Meghan equals entitled, opaque, manipulative. Contrast is a powerful rhetorical shortcut. It lets you skip nuance and move straight from anecdote to moral verdict.
She can't. And what's so interesting about Victoria's series, P. Dinah, is that it's exactly what Meghan Markle should have done. And I think that's what's going to be so galling for her. If Meghan had actually been really genuine and invited the cameras in and truly shown them how she launched this business as ever. And we saw the disasters, the bad moments, and there was a sense of jeopardy. And you certainly get that in the Victoria Beckham documentary, for example, when she's hosting this Paris Fashion Week show and everything starts to go wrong and it's pouring down with rain and a model's been injured. You see that sense of jeopardy. You even see the tension between her and David at times. And she was prepared to open up. I mean, with her series, P. Dinah, we're actually in her home.
Right.
We're seeing her children. It is truly authentic. And I say this as someone that's had my issues with the Beckhams in the past, but this was absolutely what Meghan Markle should have done. Because compared to this Victoria Beckham series, Meghan's With Love looks like a piece of propaganda. We know we're not seeing the real Meghan because we're not even seeing her real home. And I think people now do want that authenticity. So Victoria put it all on the line. And also she was risking quite a lot. She admitted how difficult it was when David Beckham was bankrolling her business. Well, we know Meghan would never do that. She's never been prepared to admit that, let's be honest, she's launched as ever on Prince Harry's money and his inheritance from the damn late Queen Mother. She's not prepared to admit that. She admitted that she's had an eating disorder and that she's had huge issues in terms of her public perception and how she's viewed and how she was a laughing stock. Meghan Markle, not prepared to do that. We saw it this week in the interview on stage at Washington, D.C. In Meghan's world, everything's hunky-dory.
Anecdote inflation. Small moments, a scarf, a rain-soaked fashion show, paparazzi outside Soho House, are amplified into proof of character. That's classic punditry. Anecdote stands in for pattern. Label claims clearly. Distinguish between reported, alleged, and proven. If you cite former staff claims, mention whether any were substantiated or settled.
Right. And also I think when she had the fashion show and it was raining, how I would have been beside myself, just crazy upset and just like it's all going wrong, but how Victoria managed in real time. You got to see how she was dealing with her staff. You got to see how she dealt with something that was completely out of her control, but she was very calm and cared about her models and had this very soft-spoken strength about her that is the complete opposite of what we've heard with Meghan and her stories of bullying her staff and losing it and throwing things at people. Victoria just really stepped up and showed you how even in a very difficult situation, she was able to manage that with control and strength in her calmness, something that Megan has not been able to do with all the stories about her being a bully towards her own staff. I really admired that about Victoria.
Yeah, totally. But again, that is the problem, isn't it, P. Dinah? To let the cameras in to that degree, you
Right.
actually have to be comfortable with who you are, and you've got to be comfortable with the way that you behave. And we know from the litany of press reports about Meghan Markle's bullying of her staff that she simply wouldn't allow the cameras in. She can't show the world the real person because the real person is a monster. And it's not me just saying that. You know, we have categorical evidence now with bullying complaint after bullying complaint, with person after person who worked for her and gave their life to her, ending up either mentally damaged and in some cases, P. Dinah, actually ending up in rehab, you know, with serious psychological scars because of their time working for her. And that's not to say
Right.
Victoria Beckham is an angel. I mean, obviously, when you're running a business like that, it's clear that she was putting pressure on her staff and they were working long hours, but they were working towards a common goal. And so I just think it would be impossible for Meghan to truly open it up. And the problem is, what she tried to do with her Netflix show as a result of all of the bad publicity from her genuinely bad behavior was use it as a propaganda tool. And that was just so
Right.
obvious. We could see through that. So do you remember, P. Dinah, all of like the cosplaying with the crew members? Oh, I'm going to give you a chicken wing, you know, because I'm going to
Yeah.
show that I'm really lovely to my staff. There was nothing genuine about that at all. And again,
Right.
to me, where Victoria really got this right was being prepared to show some of the dark stuff. But with Meghan Markle, the dark stuff is so dark and she's still
Mhm.
mired in it all. I don't think she ever can go there. And I think it's why every single project has failed, actually. Every single project has failed because what we've never actually got is the real Meghan. Because Meghan knows the real Meghan would expose her to the world.
And that's why I think Netflix didn't promote her show as much. They promoted
Yeah,
Victoria's show
so
because
much.
they saw what she was giving up on her show. She was making some really good television. And to make good television, you have to go to those uncomfortable places because people want to see what it's really like. And Megan didn't want to go there. And this is why Netflix did not promote her show. She didn't get really the true backing of Netflix because everything that Netflix had suggested to Megan, she didn't want to do. She didn't want to do the things that Netflix knew was going to get her a really good show. And because she did what she wanted to do, she kept things pretty. She censored a lot, propaganda, pretty world, no problems. Look at me and listen to my happy music. Boring, boring, Meghan Markle. You got to go where Victoria went. And I'm telling you right now, Victoria went to places that made her in her gut not feel good, but she had to show the cameras during those times to make the show. Otherwise, why even do it? Why go through all this if you're not going to really show what it's really like? You know, this is Megan's failure. She doesn't listen to the people that know. She wants to do what she wants to do, and what you want to do, Megan, is just boring. You are a drip, girl. Get
So
on with
true.
it.
So true. So true. One day, though, we probably will get the full reality series because there's going to be nothing left. That's the problem. It's the only thing that people actually want. And it will be Kardashian style and it will pimp out the children. And we're probably going to get there. And eventually, Meghan will have to say, Harry, you're going to do this. And Pete, I know that actually brings me to
Mhm.
Prince Harry because there's been a real debate this week between people who follow the Sussexes about whether Harry actually has to take a lot of responsibility for what has happened, especially over the past few months, and how he constantly stays silent. And a lot of it was sparked by the picture that Meghan actually featured of Prince Harry in her Instagram video, where he's standing there and he's in his track pants around all of her diva like stuff, and
Mhm.
he's smiling. And it's the first indication to some people that, oh my God, actually, maybe you are endorsing her behind the scenes. Like, To us, we're seeing how miserable you are and how unhappy you are, and we're speaking to your friends who say you're unhappy, you're miserable. Even the Daily Mail's Alison Boshoff this week, P. Diner, reporting bombshell details about how bad things really are between the couple. So we know that. We know he's desperately unhappy, but maybe behind the scenes, and maybe it has been because he's been gaslit and, bullied and everything for such a long time, but behind the scenes, Pete Diner, he seems to in some way be enabling this behavior.
Provide context. How common workplace complaints are in high-pressure creative industries. Give the subject a chance to respond. Quote or link to public statements from Meghan, Netflix, or representative spokespeople when possible. Explain commercial mechanics. Hit versus flop often comes down to platform support, marketing budgets, algorithmic pushes, and audience fit, not just authenticity. That helps readers separate art from personality. Be skeptical of motive stories. She staged this to get into what reads like medieval court gossip. Motive can be suggested, but treated as conjecture unless corroborated. It's satisfying, readable, and nails a cultural itch. We want celebrities to fail for perceived entitlement, and we love redemption stories that look earned. The hosts give viewers a moral system. Authenticity equals respect. Hands them a villain, and narrates a fall. That formula gets engagement, and engagement is a currency of modern punditry. The original rant is entertaining but more polemic than reporting. It mixes fact with inference and weaponizes anecdote. There's a legitimate cultural conversation here about authenticity and what audiences want from documentary-style programming. Victoria Beckham's series succeeded in part because it embraced mess and vulnerability in a way that's televisual. That's an interesting point worth exploring without calling someone a monster. Unproven allegations and motive speculation should be flagged and treated carefully. If you're building a long-form argument about a public figure, it pays to be surgical about which claims are substantiated and which are inference, both for credibility and fairness.